Well, hey there. You've stumbled upon the intersection of internet quandaries and psychological insight. Welcome to Veritas Views on AITA, where the quirks of the internet meet the expertise of Veritas Psychology Partners.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Michael MacBride. I'm joined by our dynamic duo of psychologists.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gayle MacBride, and Dan, it's great to see you. We've had a busy week in terms of our practice and presenting at a professional conference. You know, we've just been on fire this week. I'm glad to see you here on a quiet Sunday morning to record our podcast.
Yeah, it's been fun. The presentation we gave for folks who are curious, we talked about moral injury, and it's something that doesn't get talked about, I think, nearly enough. The quick nutshell, the stuff, the feelings we get when we realize we've done something that was really harmful to someone else. And those can be some of the biggest struggles when people are in therapy. I'm Dr. Dan Kessler. I'm a clinical psychologist. Really happy to be here with my partner, Gayle MacBride, and our host, Michael MacBride. Michael, what do you have for us? You have some kind of conundrum or curiosity?
I do. Yeah, I got something for you for sure. Welcome, both of you. And for anybody who's new to the podcast, if you don't know, what I've done is I've gone out and I found a topic online where someone has posted a scenario and they've asked readers, who's the asshole? And we figured, well, what the hell? We'll weigh in. Why not? So,
yeah.
And I like throwing it to Dan and Gayle and see what they come up with. And, you know, in general, I've tried to de-identify the posts a little bit, so a little more discreet. And if you're new also, stick around past the credits. We always have a bonus conversation. They used to be about things in the office, but sometimes they're about topics or articles they've read or, you know, who knows, recipes. We've done that before. We'll see what comes up. So, but for now, neither Dan nor Gayle know what I'm going to throw at them. I haven't read it or seen it before. So let's go. This one is, and this feels timely because we are doing like college visits for our child. So maybe this is why it piqued my interest. Although this post is very different than the scenario I'm in. So anyway, the topic is, am I the asshole for telling my son he has to go to university, get a job, or get out of the house?
I hope there's more, because that is A, not very nuanced, and B, sounds like the line a lot of parents draw.
Yeah, it's an interesting, I sometimes I jump in, oh yeah, maybe not. I'd really like to hear more about what's going on, because I could see myself drawing a similar. I haven't needed to draw any line like that as a parent,
right?
Yet,
still have one more.
Still have one more, yeah. But it's an interesting. Let's hear more, Michael.
Sure. So the poster is the father, and it doesn't say how long he and his wife have been married, but it says, my wife and I have 3 kids, 17, 15, and 10. Our oldest has no clear plans after high school, so I gave him the same ultimatum my parents gave me: go to university, get a job, or get the fuck out. When I was his age, I worked my way around the world for 2 years before enrolling in university and eventually joining the family business. Our family is well off, and we're fully prepared to pay for his education, but he seems to have no interest in school, work, or anything beyond his computer. My wife thinks I'm being too harsh, but we agreed before marriage that we'd raise productive members of society, and my 2 other kids already understand the expectation, and they've already started planning, even at 10 and 15.
They know parents are serious. This 10-year-old's like, oh shit, I gotta get
10. I have my doubts as to how much actual planning a 10-year-old can do for college and post high school, but all right, I'm willing to give him the fantasy.
So then the dad goes on to say, essentially, like, if he doesn't choose a path, he is going to stop financially supporting his son, where unfortunately his wife then has said no, that she'll use her salary to support him instead. And so it's causing a rift between the relationship. He feels like he refused to fund an adult who refuses to take responsibility for his future and participate in the community. And while he won't kick him out necessarily, he will stop paying bills and reduce our grocery budget by 20%, which, so he has his options. He just refuses to take them. Am I wrong for expecting him to act like an adult when he turns 18?
Very often I find that they're asking the wrong question.
Yes.
Dan,
that was what I was going to say next.
Right. Yeah. No, you did a great job. You answered the question as asked. It's just
answer the question as asked, but I totally agree with you. I don't know where you're going with this.
No, you 100% know, because I think we are on the same
Yeah. I mean, the question isn't, well, you go ahead. I'm going to say no. He's not wrong in this particular question, but I don't want to. Say, what were you gonna? What do you think the question should be, Gail?
The question should be about how this poster approached the conversation. He has a conflict with his partner, and it's a parenting conflict, and
Yeah.
it seems like it's playing out in a triangulated kind of way where the poster and the oldest child are having a disagreement of sorts, right? I mean, maybe the oldest child is engaging in this disagreement in a passive way, but clearly mom, the wife, has very different intentions, and as a parental unit, they need to come together and make some agreements about what they will and will not fund. This doesn't
Yeah.
get to be done by edict.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of even a different question though.
Mm.
Um, what's going on with this young man that he doesn't have a sense of direction at this point?
Oh, 100%.
Like
That's a great
that's right.
question.
Where I want to know is what I want to go is like I think both parents in this case, by taking sort of absolutist perspectives, um, I am not going to support him unless he does one of these three things, versus if he's not doing those three things, I will support him, are missing the point. And the point here is what's going on with this young man who, at this age and in his peer group, probably everyone has a plan, or almost everyone has a plan. And if they don't have a plan, they have a plan for not having a plan. Like you see sometimes kids in this category are like, I don't know what I want to do yet, so I will work a job. I will do a gap year. I mean, this family has means. This is the kid that you see taking a gap year in another country and figuring themselves out. Or I will go to a community college and start to, like, I will join the military. I will, whatever it is that these, like, there's something that this 18-year-old, presumably 18-year-old, will be doing or should be doing. So, like, if he's got nothing, what's going on for this young man? Like,
No, I
I'm
think
concerned
that
for
is a
him.
great question. And I think you hit on a really important point. I do wonder if dad didn't obfuscate that point a little bit just for the child's protection, in terms of not sharing what that is. You and I think, are assuming there's maybe some mental health things going on. I do think dad sounds wrapped in this idea of, I'm not going to be taken advantage of.
Yeah, and at the same time, like, I have some sympathy here for dad.
Hmm.
If I had I full disclosure, they're I've got my one of my kids has gone off to college recently, and another one will be heading off in a few years, hopefully. And if one of my kids was saying, and they're older ones, if one of my kids was like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to, like, chill at home and figure shit out over the next year and not, I just want you. I would have concerns, and I would want to. I mean, I'd want to explore this, but I also don't know that I would. If they just wanted to play video games and hang out in the basement, I don't know that I'd want to support that. I mean, Dad's like, I will reduce our food budget by 20%. Like, but
Yeah.
I see where Dad's coming from on this.
Oh, I agree. Like, I don't want a 40-year-old child living in my basement playing video games. But I think there is perhaps another answer in here, which is, wow, you really seem to be struggling with a direction or identity or planning or something. And if I can't help you with that, then I would recommend you seek out a professional.
Yeah,
And I would
yeah,
ask that child to do some therapy work if they are not able to meet these other marks, because then you start to be concerned about, why is this person not, quote unquote, leaving the nest? Why aren't they organizing around some of these normative developmental principles? There's
yeah.
something that we're missing in a mental health, a cognitive structure kind of way, that perhaps is being overlooked by both parents, or at least underappreciated.
Yeah, and I don't do a lot of this work myself. We
No.
both we have several colleagues
Hmm.
who do work on, like, failure to launch. You do
Hmm.
some of it, I do some of it, but there are people who do a lot of work with young folks and what we think of as failure to launch.
Right.
And maybe that's a dated term, or a term that is not a kind term to use. It's the the phrasing that comes to my head. So for if we got folks out there who know a more current or accurate or less pejorative sounding phrasing, I'd love to hear it. But I think about that failure to launch and what's going on. It's almost always because something is going on in their world.
Yeah.
What's going on for this young person that they're having so many difficulties moving on? It's not just because I just, maybe it is, but I don't tend to think of this as just because they'd rather play video games and do nothing.
Do you think the intensity of dad's reaction here is about his own stuff that comes up when he sees a nearly adult child not leaving the home, especially when we've got a couple of other kids who have the ability to at least verbalize in a
Maybe.
direction?
I mean,
I
I'm willing to
wonder if he's not feeling a little parental shame and like, well, what did I do wrong that this kid isn't, ready to leave the home?
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that were part of why there's intensity here.
Mhm.
At the same time, putting myself in his shoes, like I would have some fairly intense feelings if my 18-year-old child, rather than wanting to go off to college, wanted to. And what's the kid, Michael? Is the kids like hanging out, like just hanging out playing video games?
Yeah, the dad says he's obsessed with the computer, and it is computer games. Yeah, I mean video game,
Mhm.
whatever, but
Sure.
specifically, I imagine, multi-monitor setup, big headphones on, that kind of stuff, gaming
and
chair.
that's
But
and that's fine. I certainly have seen that in my own kids, but also kids who are doing stuff. And I think
Mhm.
if I had a kid who was doing had the multi-monitor gaming setup and the obsession, that's not a. I'm not necessarily troubled by that piece of it. I'm troubled by the piece of it that's not in addition to a hard day's work or a challenging day's college or whatever. That's instead of. And this is the same thing for adults, and whether it's video games or TikTok or television or anything we do. Like, is it
Mhm.
in addition to as a way of relaxing from a hard day, or is it the way one is spending one's day? And we'll see the difference between watching a show at the end of the day and your favorite episode of whatever versus spending the entire day watching television. Um, and so, like, the television isn't good or evil. We could argue that, but it's more how it's being utilized.
Mhm.
Go
So
ahead.
clearly, we think that there's maybe something going on that's being underattended to here for this.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe dad stuff is coming up. I'm with you though. I mean, I'll go back and say, like, I don't want my children at home without a plan. Even if that plan is maybe not something that I would have wanted for myself. I would want to see a plan. I would want to see a direction of some sort with an
Yeah.
intention to go out on their own, because again, that is developmentally normal. That's what we expect teenagers to be gearing up to do. And this kiddo doesn't sound like they've worked on that individuation and that separation. Now we come to the communication between the two parents,
Oh yeah.
which is really tough. And I know I've seen this in my office, and I'm sure you have, where two parents have really different ideas about what they think is right. I, and they
Yeah.
struggle to find the win-win that sometimes you look for. And,
Mhm.
we do live in a country where, you can stay on your parents' insurance until your mid-20s. So
Mhm.
who's right here? Who's wrong? How do you find that win-win for this couple that's clearly not having that in-depth conversation about meaning and parenting and what
Yeah.
they want to do from a philosophical standpoint as parents?
I think they're both wrong. They're both wrong because they're taking absolutist positions and not willing to
Okay.
hear each other out and come to a conclusion that makes sense. What does mom, what does mom know that dad doesn't know? What is
Mhm.
leading mom to make this decision? Where dad's the original poster here. Dad is assuming that mom is just being, sounds like he's assuming mom just being soft and not willing
Mhm.
to set limits and boundaries. But is he hearing what mom is hearing? Maybe there's something mom is hearing about this kiddo that dad's not attending to, that she
Mhm.
understands that he doesn't. What is mom missing? Is she not noticing that there's a real that there's I don't know. But this couple, what they really need to do, I believe, is to sit down and figure out together how they're going to manage this situation. Because it's
And
not
they
a
need,
situation that either one of them is going to find acceptable.
right. I mean, mom sounds like she's aligned with the kid, and dad is out there as an island on his own and not getting information from mom, which ideally is her role to share what she knows with her partner so that they can create a plan together instead of aligning with the kids, the kid saying like, all right, no, we can absolutely do this for a few more years. We get it, honey. You just, some people just don't know as soon as others, and by doing that I think that she is participating in a family problem here, and it sounds like it's maybe even leaking onto the kids, where the kids are like, oh shoot, like this is causing a family rift, and maybe this is why that 10-year-old starts organizing their behavior,
Yeah.
such as a 10-year-old can, around goals, because I better sure better get out of here. Like, I imagine that there is quite a lot of conflict here, and it's showing up and probably affecting all five of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not that you make there. It's certainly not just this one issue, and mom and dad agree on all sorts of things and really work
Mm-mm.
out how to parent their kids well. And in this one particular situation, they're not,
Yeah.
because it's almost never that. So I really would want to spend some time with this couple, trying to figure out what was causing their conflict, where the philosophical differences are, what they're not hearing from each other. Like, there's a lot of opportunity here for
Yeah.
this couple to figure this out. And I'd want that to figure out what's going on with that kid, that he's not like most 18-year-olds. They're like ready to roll. It's
Hmm.
part of that separation individuation process. They want to be out on their own. They want to be, going to college or going to trade
Hmm.
school or going to the army, or going out, or leaving the house in some way, living with a friend. Like, they want to be doing. They very, very rarely want to be staying at home. And I'm not. I don't necessarily want to pathologize it, the desire to be at home, but I want to understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think the couple is just missing some fundamental conversations. And I'm
Yeah.
convinced this is not the first one. This is not the first time they've argued about it. I think very often when couples have means, they have very different perspectives on how to spend that and what that what
Mhm.
that means to their overall lifestyle. And you sometimes do have one member of a couple wanting to make sure to have that resource so that we can have a life and a retirement, and that there's a financial end to our obligation with regard to the children. And you've
Yeah.
got sometimes another person in that couple who says, if we have money, what's it for but to spend it on our family? And why
Right.
does it matter if, right? And I think it does matter. I think it does
Yeah.
mean that, we should be looking at this child and figuring out, why are they not ready to leave the home, and what is that about? And I want to understand that kid's perspective. But I can see where mom comes from. Like, well, we have it. Why not spend it?
Mhm. I have a bit of a side quest sort of a
Mm.
question. And that's, we've dealt with couples who, or I'm sure you have as well, but folks who are in this situation where they have let's say we're talking about a couple of years down the road, and they have a child who is in a really bad situation. um, and they come home, they're living off the parents, and the parents are getting a lot of feedback from people, just cut them off.
Hmm.
And I think it's really easy to say about this kid or about some kid later on, just cut them off.
Hmm.
And people frequently give that advice, just cut them off. But the reality is, if that individual is going through a really difficult life situation or problem, just cutting them off may cause a lot more harm than good.
Hmm.
Similarly, just continue to pay their way may cause more harm than good. And I get what I'm getting to here in my too long-winded way of saying it, is that these situations are generally far more nuanced than the OP's question, or even if the OP was talking about a 30-year-old who wasn't doing anything,
Hmm.
we cut them off or not. As asked, the answer to OP's question is no. In my world, he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing at this point. Yeah, sure. But the reality of the question is far more nuanced than the yes or no question that OP asked.
No, I
So
agree. And sometimes it's about the secondary gain. What am I getting because I'm allowing this behavior? I have an adult that I have seen for a long time, and this person allowed a adult child who had adult children move back in the home. And we talked about that. And the reality is there is a gain to allowing that adult child to come back. And it's not a one for one. It's not a hey, they pay their way, but there's some emotional and physical support sometimes, or just the ability to not live alone in this particular person's case. So I think you have to also look at when you are agreeing to do something and everybody else around you saying, don't do it, make them move out, make them pay their way. Look at what is the benefit, what are you getting out of it? And sometimes again, it's not monetary, and it may not be, able to be like physically measured, but there may be an emotional component or emotional benefit that you're getting, but often there's a secondary gain. And so in this post, I wonder if, what is mom's secondary gain? What is she getting out of allowing this child to stay home?
Yeah, as posted, as written,
That's
I'm
written.
more unhappy with mom than dad because
Yes,
she's saying because dad's saying I'm not willing to do this, mom's saying, well, I'm going to do it anyway. On the other
right.
hand, as written, so is dad wrong for wanting to cut him off? No. But is dad wrong for insisting he's going to do it and going to war with mom over this? They're both wrong.
They're both wrong.
They're
And
both wrong.
like we often find, as written is not representative of reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
I agree. I mean, I think kind of everybody sucks here.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
even going to
Everyone does
pull
kind of
kid
suck
into
here.
this because you know what? Look, you're 17 and something's going on, and I want you to live a long, full life, and I want somebody to be helping you with that. And
Yeah.
maybe it's something that you can't get like pushed over the hump to get to, but like also maybe it doesn't. I
Good
don't know.
news.
I'm talking myself out of it a little bit, but
No,
I
no,
do want kid to get
I'm
some
with you
help.
on that. I'm with you on
I
that. I
want the
think
kid to
that
want the help.
yeah, I mean I'm not willing to say the kid sucks. Mom and dad kind of suck. Like I said, dad again, as asked,
Mhm.
the answer to dad's question is no. But when you get into the more nuanced thing here, both mom and dad are really making a mistake here.
Yes.
And
I think that's
the
very
kid
fair.
may or may not be. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm more like I want to see I want this couple to come into our offices and spend some time like exploring
Sure.
this. And I want to refer this kid to a colleague who does this sort of like failure to
Mhm.
launch work. And I see
Mhm.
so many opportunities for this family down the road.
Yeah.
Right now mom and dad are really sound like they're not doing a good job with
Yeah, I hear myself put the kid on the spot. I didn't like how that felt, so I did. I kind of quickly walked it backward. But I do
yeah,
think there's at 17, I do want you to be like hooking in and buying into your own care and your own needs and your
yeah,
own future.
yeah,
I understand that there are times where that is really hard to do for a myriad of reasons. But I want you to want that, and I want you to be responsive when someone says, "Hey, something's not right here. I need you to go explore it. If not with me, with a professional."
right. So we sort of rendered a verdict, Michael. What does the internet say?
Well, you're, as usual, much kinder than the internet. So the vast majority of the posts were not the asshole that this kid has lived a privileged life. He needs to fly, push him out of the nest, all the things, right?
Yeah.
And they were really pretty harsh in a lot of those judgments. Now,
Honestly, I think we both, Gail and I can speak for myself. I see Gail nodding. I think both. This is one of those situations where people really want to give you the easy solution, and
Right.
life is much more complex than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
what
No, it's a very tempting ball to
Yeah,
swing at, right? And just try to like, this is easy, boom, done. But were you to be in that situation, I am sure you would tell me all of the reasons why this isn't workable. And people really have a hard time seeing themselves in this situation. We want to
right.
think that, we've done this parenting thing in such a way that, the kids follow the predictable path. And it's really hard to see that maybe not, maybe something's going on, but how you navigate that with your partner matters way more.
my favorite so then there were some that said you're the asshole, which was a much smaller, like it was maybe 10% of the people who had said you're not the asshole. And the 10%, said like you're being overly harsh. and they really read into the dad's post. And the dad did engage and respond to a couple of things, which I enjoy. But in doing so, it definitely did not paint him in a favorable light.
He dug himself deeper.
I mean, yeah, because like they're like,
Yeah.
tell us more about this and where the money comes from. And like then the dad's like, well, like I didn't want to go to college, but at least I made a plan. I went and I wandered around. I took a gap 2 years, like you said, to go do whatever. And then ultimately, felt my hand was forced to go to college. And then I joined the family business. And so they're like, so you're like making your son do what you did out of resentment? Like good parenting there, right? And they like, and so like that really was a kind of harsh but interesting. I mean, it brings out, I think, some of that baggage the dad is carrying. And they dug into the mom, and the mom has a job with a salary, and she did not come from money. And so, she sees the opportunity that you guys are talking about where, like, we have it. Like, why does it matter? Like, give him, he has the money. He's going to get it one way or another. Let's keep him at home. We like spending time with him. And then there were a couple people who asked for additional information, which were, what's he doing on the computer? Tell us, maybe he's actually building skills, that could lead to a career. Maybe there's a way of channeling that into being, a YouTuber or, a gamer where people are on whatever that platform is. I can't remember what it's called, where, they watch
Twitch.
people game. Thank you, Twitch. So like there were those kind of conversations. And then, but those were kind of for me, the more interesting aspects, and you guys touched on some of those. So,
right.
Yeah, no, I think what I'm most struck by in this one, and we've certainly had this come up a lot, is that life is far more nuanced than those very easy solutions that we want to toss out there. And this conversation is much more of an opportunity to hear everyone and understand and process than it is a cut them off or don't cut them off kind of question.
Yeah.
That's usually what I say about like the black and white thing at the end, but that's all right. Thank you both for a riveting glimpse into the collective conscious of the internet forums. And like Dan said, can't just kick them out of the nest or not. So.
Oh man, I'm going to go back to our oldie but goodie. Have the conversation.
Yeah. What's going on with this kid? I feel for this family and hope they figure it out.
Yeah. Please follow and share Veritas Views, any of the podcast platforms with your neighbors and friends. And as always, stick around through those credits for the bonus conversation about whatever happens to be on their minds today.
You can follow Dr. Dan Kessler at Dr. Dan Kessler and Dr. Gayle MacBride at Dr. G. MacBride. Oh, and you can find them both at veritaspp.com. Credits. Tickling the Ivories, Matthew Reddington. Art, production, and design, bringing this show together with flair and finesse, Michelle Love. Recording and editing, turning chaos into something worth sharing, Michael MacBride. Intro, outro, I'm Kelly Buttrick, a VO talent who just happens to be Dr. MacBride's cousin. Cats, CJ, Linus, Sadie, and Griffin. Hosting by whomever lost the coin flip. Interruptions by all their children. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Listening to this podcast does not constitute a therapist-client relationship. If you believe you may be experiencing a mental health issue, please seek the assistance of a qualified mental health professional. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, you can call or text 988 from anywhere in the U.S. to be connected to Crisis Mental Health Services.
Thanks for listening. As promised, here's that bonus conversation.
Gayle, you have a jar of fucks to give? Or
I think it's kind of the point to not give. We see people in our office often enough, and we kind of challenge them around how much do they get wrapped into, care about, hook into any given thing. And one of those novelty items that keeps showing up now are these jars of fucks. And so I have this jar of fucks to give or to not give. Well, I lost the cork from it. But the point is, there are only so many fucks that you can give. So don't just give them away willy-nilly. And I love this as a little reminder that maybe the fucks we can give are finite, and be really thoughtful about when you give a fuck. So that's in
Love
my
it.
office. A little reminder. If you need such a reminder, I urge you. These are cute but meaningful.
I think we have a link for that in our favorite things and like
Probably we
our
should.
probably should.
I have
We get no, for full
mine is,
disclosure, I think we get no money from
yeah, I
anything.
was gonna say I have
Not
no disclosures
not
to do because I don't own or
selling
write
merch.
this in any way, and there's a number of sellers out there, so pick your favorite. But yeah,
There you go.
be thoughtful. I think I've only given a couple away out of my jar. It's pretty full still.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah, we do have that favorite things page on the web page,
Mhm.
and that's a place for books and resources and things like that. And like they said, like we get no credit for those at all. So,
And
yeah.
I'll go one step further and remind people we have a mailbag. So if
Mm.
you want to give me a note in the mailbag, what's something that you would give one of your fucks away for? What's really important to you that you would part with one of your fucks out of a jar of fucks?
Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in. Tune in again next week for a whole other Am I the Asshole debate.
We love hearing from you, so please review us on Apple, Spotify, or, well, wherever you're listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please review, like, and follow. Also, give it a share. This helps us reach more listeners.